A lot of fallout from this debate this past week. More Republicans jumped ship and endorsed Hillary Clinton following Trump's performance Monday night. Many of them say her stances might not fit perfectly with their views, but feel Trump's personality combined with a dangerous world is simply too big a chance to take. One guy who hopes the trend continues, John Stubbs, co-founder of the group Republicans for Clinton in 2006. John, appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
You know, every time we do one of these segments, Twitter lights up and everyone says, all right, the guy you're interviewing who says he's a Republican for Hillary isn't really a Republican. So I'm going to start with that. Lifelong Republican.
Lifelong Republican, put yard signs for George H.W. Bush in my neighborhood when I was in high school, worked for Jack Kemp out of college, Bob Zellick and Rob Portman at USTR under the W administration.
All right, so those are your bona fides. Twitter, feel free to take that to task as you see fit. Let me ask you this. Are you upset with your predicament right now? It doesn't seem like anybody with those kind of credentials would be too happy, at least with even having to think about endorsing Hillary Clinton.
Of course. I mean, I think Republicans have been upset for a while. More Republicans voted against Donald Trump in the primaries than voted for him, even though he did get a lot of votes from new people joining the primary process. So if you are traditionally a Republican, if you grew up under the party of Reagan like I did, if you were looking for an optimistic, inclusive party based on empowerment, respect for individual liberty, Donald Trump is not your candidate.
And really, Hillary Clinton is a better alternative?
Hillary Clinton is the least worst outcome. Donald Trump is the worst outcome. And when you're faced with the worst outcome, pragmatically speaking, you have to look at what your options are. Right now, our options, we believe, Republican Congress with Hillary Clinton is the best path for stability.
You talk about, though, a Republican Congress for Hillary Clinton. Do you worry at all that as more Republicans come out for Hillary Clinton, which has undoubtedly happened, that all of a sudden you are going to end up in a situation where there's a chance that Congress flips, that it affects the down ballots so much?
Because more Republicans show up at the polls? Absolutely not. I think the opposite. If Republicans stay home because they're disaffected by Trump, there's a greater likelihood that the Senate flips to Democrats. Our effort, and we just launched a Get Out the Vote effort yesterday in North Carolina for Senator Burr, is go vote for your Republican representative, go vote for your congressman and your senator, and take back the leadership. That leadership can provide an opportunity for Republicans to advance Republican priorities with Secretary Clinton.
As you talk about Secretary Clinton, Politico had an interesting piece today talking about this very issue of Secretary Clinton vis-a-vis moderate Republicans, which I'm guessing you'd self-describe as a moderate Republican, saying, and I'm quoting now, that gone are the references in Hillary Clinton's speeches to winning over moderate Republicans. She has now gone to a base-only get-out-the-vote strategy. Does that bother you at all, that it has become so much more partisan on her side? You don't get this big umbrella from her?
No, I think she's consistently been throwing light on the Republican Party and reaching out to Republicans. You had more Republicans come out.
But what has she reached out specifically that you're happy with?
Tim Kaine, as a selection, is probably the biggest decision she's had to make in this election cycle, and that is a very moderate, that is a Republicans kind of Democrat.
A Republicans kind of Democrat. Dare you say almost a Reagan, the Reagan the sort of juxtaposition of a Reagan Democrat. Tim Kaine is a Republican. Kaine is a Republican. I'm trying to figure out how it's not happening.
Yeah, he's a Republicans Democrat. I mean, if you're looking at, you know, she could have gone a lot of ways there, and I think people thought she might take Elizabeth Warren or Sanders, and many people in her party were upset. So it wasn't without risk for her to select Tim Kaine.
I got to ask about the polls, though, when it comes to the issue of Gary Johnson. We'll take a look at Florida first, as it is right now. Florida, latest poll, Hillary Clinton 46, Trump 41, 6%. Gary Johnson. Looking at North Carolina, the state that you talked about, 45% Donald Trump, 40% Hillary Clinton, 6% Gary Johnson. How worried are you, and for that matter, are quote-unquote Republicans for Hillary, about the Gary Johnson factor?
Very worried. I mean, I think that most of the people that are voting for Gary Johnson in this year's election are doing so out of protest. They don't like Donald Trump. He's not their nominee. We get it. He's not our nominee either. And they just can't get to Secretary Clinton. Even the Chicago Tribune. They can't get to Secretary Clinton, so they're looking at third-party options. Here's the problem with that. When you live in a state like North Carolina, your vote is literally worth tens of thousands of times more than a voter in a safe state. It is not an equal system. The Electoral College does not make every vote the same. And so you could actually flip the election to Donald Trump, your worst case scenario, by protesting for Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson got less than 1% of the vote in North Carolina in 2012. What has he done in 4 years to move up 6x?
All right. Well, I'm sure that you'll be trying to answer that question or not answer it over the next 5 weeks there in North Carolina with your Get Out the Vote program. Appreciate it, John.
Thank you.
Thanks for
having
being
me
here.